Erev Tov, everyone, and welcome to the House of Seven Beggars. It is Tuesday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This, of course, is the House of Seven Beggars, therefore, it must be the Shul study hall. And we are continuing our study of the Code of Jewish Law, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, by Rabbi Solomon Gansfried. And we are a ways past halfway on this. So we've been at it for a while, but we're getting there. Good to have you all here. We have, let's see, in the chat room, Roberta, Benjamin, Yair, and Dave. And Shlomo. Okay, so, and I might assume Shoshi. But anyway, so, and we know there are going to be other ones who will be popping in fashionably late as usual. And so I just have one announcement before we begin. We just received word just a little while ago that the Klausenberger Rebbe has been taken to the hospital. If you would raise Tehillim for him, he is Harav Shlomo ben Esther. The world can ill afford the loss of another Rebbe, another Zadik. So, and Shoshi is there with Shlomo. Good. Very happy. Okay. So we are going to pick up where we left off. But before we do, we are going to, and another announcement. Yeah, I'm not really sure yet whether we will have class next week or not because of Hanukkah, and it is a holiday, it is a festival, and we should be spending our time with family and friends and stuff like that, and so I think we will not have class next week so that we can all fully enjoy the festival. And I hope you have a wonderful festival. And so that's about it. Okay, so before we start, of course, we are going to start with the Bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lasok b'divrei Torah. And as I have mentioned before, the reason that we say the blessing for the study of Torah when we're studying the Code of Jewish Law is because the law, the Shulchan Aruch, is derived from the Talmud, the Mishnah, and the Gemara, which comes from the Torah. So there's a direct connection there. Okay, so we are on Perek 114 and Pasuk 7. So chapter 114 and verse or paragraph 7. If you don't have the Shulchan Aruch, again, just below in the description, you will find a link to an online version, which is almost complete. Evidently, it is still a work in progress, but it's pretty close. So let us start. We are on again Pasuk 7. If you have the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the one that I'm reading out, then we would be on. This would be. This is going to be volume 2. Chapter 114, which is volume 2, page 35. Volume 2? Volume 2 or volume 3? Let's find out. So there's volume 1. And there's volume 2. And that is volume 3. Yes, volume 3. Chapter 114, verse 7 on page 35. Okay. 7. And this is dealing with the laws of the selling of chametz before Pesach. Okay. We are now into all the laws dealing with all the different holy days and festivals and so on. And we talked quite a bit before about the laws about Shabbat and stuff and Chol HaMoed, and now we're going into the specific holidays. So it is forbidden to sell the leaven of an apostate Jew or Jews or Jewess or to the son of an apostate Jewess, even if she was born, if she has borne him from a non-Jew after she became an apostate. For as far as the law is concerned, they are considered as Jews, and the leaven will be regarded like that which has remained in the possession of a Jew until after Pesach, of which no benefit may be derived. In other words, we always hold out that hope that even if a Jew or a Jewess or the children of a Jew becomes an apostate, that they are still a Jew, and there's still that hope that they will return, which we have seen many times, that they will return, and we don't want to be the cause of having them having erred and sinned. So that's why it says it's forbidden to sell the chametz to them, in the hopes that when they do return, they will not, have sinned during that period of time, and we won't have lured them into sin. Okay, so Pasuk 8. A person possessing wheat in a place other than where he lives, laden in wagons or on ships, may likewise sell it to a non-Jew together with the place holding the wheat. Hence why, we when we sell our chametz, we also, we list not only our home address, we also list the address of our place of business. If we have our vehicles, if we have like we have a camper, then that is also listed, so that if there is any chametz in there, that it's all covered in the contract of the sale of the chametz. So it makes sense when you are getting ready to sell your chametz, and I know that Chabad is always very careful about that, making sure that there's plenty of room for you to list those things. We always list out all those places where there may actually be chametz, even though that's not our actual place of residence. Nevertheless, in such a case, he should also renounce his right of ownership to it before a rabbinical court, or before 3 laymen. If such leaven is delivered to him on Pesach, a non-Jewish buyer should pay for the cost of the wagons and all the expenses connected with it. If the leaven is brought to him on Pesach from a non-Jew, which has neither ordered nor had any knowledge of it, the non-Jew should likewise receive it and pay whatever is due to the one who brought it. The Jew must not concern himself with it at all. On the contrary, he should likewise renounce his ownership of it before a rabbinical court or before 3 laymen. Pasuk 9, if one possesses a mill, and the customers who grind their produce pay him in kind by grain, which is leaven, he must neither sell nor let the mill, in other words, loan it or sell it or whatever, or lease it to a non-Jew before Pesach. Pasuk 10. Regarding the sale of cattle to a non-Jew, so that he may feed them with leaven during Pesach. There are a divergence of opinions among the sages of blessed memory. If possible, it is best to avoid such a transaction, but if it is impossible, one should act in accordance with the decision of a sage. Okay, somebody who has learned. Pasuk 11. One Jew may lend a loaf of bread to another Jew before Pesach, with the understanding that he should return a loaf of bread to him after Pesach. In some communities, such a deal is not sanctioned. Pasuk 12. If the leaven of a Jew is in the possession of a non-Jew, or if the leaven of a non-Jew is in the possession of a Jew, one should consult a sage as to how to act in this manner, for there are many diverse opinions regarding this. And in any case, what you would do is you would follow the minhag of the community. Okay, whatever that minhag is. Pasuk 12, and the final pasuk. Care should be taken not to benefit after Pesach of the leaven belonging to a Jew who is suspected of not having sold it properly. Of course, we wouldn't actually think that a Jew would not have sold it properly, because we're supposed to judge all Jews toward merit, unless we know for certain that he hasn't sold it properly. Okay, so this next portion actually has to do with the form of the agreement of the sale of leaven. So if you're going to do this on your own, there is in the Shulchan Aruch the formula for writing it correctly. So the agreement would be, I, the undersigned, have hereby sold to a non-Jew, so-and-so, whatever their name is, all the brandy that I have in the cellar of my dwelling. The cellar is situated in the courtyard on the northerly side, next to the one on the easterly side. All the brandy that I have there, whether it is contained in middle-sized barrels or big ones, I have sold to the above-mentioned party, together with the vessels, for the sum of 220 gold coins. So basically, it has to be a fair market value, okay, that you're actually selling it to them for. They actually give you a deposit on it, and that money doesn't actually change hands, but it has to be, you have to estimate a fair market value for it. Also, the brandy that I have there in big bottles, about 7 measures, I have sold to him for 5 gold coins without the vessel. Also, the shilovitz that I have there in a small barrel, I have sold to him for 20 gold coins, or 12 gold coins, together with the vessel. I have also sold him 6 small empty barrels which once contained brandy, and 2 big empty casks with iron hoops that once contained brandy. I have sold them all for the sum of 8 gold coins and 50 cents. Also the 5 bags of flour that I have in a room called storage room, and is part of the premises in which I reside, I have sold to the above named, together with the bags, for the sum of 39 gold coins. Also the vessel that contained leaven that I have there, such as the kneading troughs and the flour chests, I have sold to him for the sum of 4 gold coins and 50 cents. Also the barley contained in a small bag that I have there, I have sold to him for 1 gold coin and 50 cents, together with the bags. I have received from him a deposit of 10 gold coins. The balance I charged to him as a loan, and at the time for paying, the same should not be later than 10 days from the day hereafter mentioned. 10 days would be the day after Pesach. I have rented to said buyer the above-mentioned cellar and the above-mentioned room, for now until the expiration of 10 days from the day hereafter mentioned, for the sum of 4 gold coins, for which I have received a deposit of 3 gold coins. And the balance I have charged as a loan, which must be paid to me no later than 10 days from the day thereafter mentioned. And by means of the rent, the realty rent to him, that is the cellar and the room mentioned above, I have conveyed to him all the chattels mentioned above. And I hereby make full and unqualified declaration that I have rented to him the said cellar and room. I have conveyed to him all the chattels mentioned above, by whatsoever means may be legally effective, according to the laws of our holy Torah, and according to the law of the land, without any claim or a counterclaim. He has the right to do, and remember we talked about this the last time we were together, he has the right to do with all of the aforementioned as he sees fit, to sell it or to give it away as a gift, or to rent it without any interference. He also has the right to remove all of the aforementioned immediately into his house, and even if he should leave them where they are now, the responsibility for all the above is from now on assumed by the buyer, and I assume no responsibility whatsoever, not even the responsibility of loss by accident. I have also given the buyer the right of way to go through my courtyard and my house in order to enter the said cellar and the room which are let to him. Also, if I should desire during the period of tenure to sell some of the chattels to someone else, all those who come with his consent likewise have the right of way. I have also surrendered to him the keys to the cellar and to the room mentioned above. This has been executed in the most efficient manner and in accordance with the law of our holy Torah and according to the law of the land. And this one is dated Hungary, 14th of Nisan, 5634. And then it was signed. Okay. Form of the agreement adopted by the author of Noda Bayehuda in collaboration with his great court, with the emendications in accordance with the opinion of the author of Khatam Sofer. Okay, here we go. I testify by my signature hereto affixed that I have rented to the non-Jew, Mr. So-and-so, the room. Of course, you wouldn't put so-and-so in there. You would actually put their actual name. The room for 9, if the day of Pesach, before Pesach occurs on the Sabbath, it should be written 10, so all have the way through. Consecutive days, beginning from this day, also that I have legally sold to him all foodstuffs, whether cooked or raw, and all liquids contained in this room. I have also received from the above named buyer the sum of fair market value, dollars as deposit, and have agreed to with him upon the receipt of the deposit that the room is now rented to him for the period of 9 consecutive days, beginning from today, and is at his exclusive disposition, and the consequences, he also acquires ownership of all foodstuffs, cooked or raw, and all liquids therein contained, which I hereby transfer to him in best legal form. Further, by virtue of taking possession of the room, all that is contained therein, foodstuffs and liquids as mentioned above, are transferred to his ownership. Also, by virtue of his acquisition of the room rented to him, I have sold to the above-mentioned purchaser all grain that I own in the field, and all the brandy that I keep in such and such a place for and as his property. In witness thereof, I give to the above-mentioned named purchaser this contract of sale, so that with receipt of this contract, he acquires lease to the above-mentioned room and the ownership of whatever is contained therein and the above-mentioned articles of food and drink. Finally, although the above-mentioned purchaser still owes me the balance of the purchase price, agreeing to pay me on such and such a date, I expressly declare that all the food and liquids sold to him are not mortgaged to me, and therefore all the risk is the buyer's and not my concern. To witness, I have set my seal and signature, done at what place it was actually done at, on the, and then the date. When a Jew receives a deposit from a purchaser and before he delivers the agreement to him, he should also orally say to him the following: I rent you that's why it pays to have it written out in advance. I rent you this room for 9 or 10 days for the sum of X number of dollars, and I sell you all food, cooked raw, and all liquid contained therein, as your absolute and uncontested property for the sum of X dollars. And if he has any grain or brandy or any kind of leaven in other places, he should also say to him that he sells him all the grain found in such and such a field, or the brandy or other kinds of leaven in such and such a place, like your camper, your office, and so on and so forth, for the sum of X dollars. And I accept this sum of money which you have given me on these terms, that I rent to you the aforementioned room for 9 or 10 days, and I completely surrender to you the room as lessee, with all rights, and by virtue of your lease you acquire also the ownership of all the crops and the brandy which I have sold to you, and also all the raw and cooked foodstuffs and drinks as aforementioned. For the balance of the purchase money, however, you are still indebted to me for the amount of X dollars, and you obligate yourself to pay me the same on whatever day of what year. However, if this obligation rests upon you personally, and the above-mentioned foodstuffs and drinks sold to you are not hypothecated to me for such indebtedness, and you and I are therefore assuming all risk of ownership for the future. Okay, got that now? Got it straight? Got it all memorized, right? So you'll be able to sit down and write it right. Geketa, good to see you. Good to have you here. Okay. We are on Perek 115, chapter 115, dealing with if the day before Pesach occurs on Shabbat. And we begin with Pasuk 1. If the day before Pesach occurs on the Sabbath, and the search for leaven must be made on Thursday night, the eve of the 13th day of Nisan. On concluding the search, we nullify the leaven by saying, Kal Hamiram, all leaven. And on Friday morning, before 11 o'clock, we burn it, but without saying the Kal Hamira. We nullify it and say Kal Hamira on the Sabbath after the morning meal. So we actually make the declaration at the time when we would actually do it, but we actually do it before that. Okay, Perek 2. The firstborn sons fast on Thursday. Now this is if Pesach occurs on Shabbat. The firstborn son fasts on Thursday, and if it is difficult for them to fast until after the search for leaven, they may take some refreshments before the search, or else appoint one as their agent to make the search, and then they may eat before the search. Perek 3. For this Shabbat, no dish consisting of flour or grits should be cooked, as some particles thereof may cling to the pot, which may not be cleansed because of the Sabbath. Therefore, only victuals that are not pastries should be cooked. After the meal, the tablecloth should be well shaken and hidden away, together with the vessels used for leaven, in a room to which one is not accustomed to go during Pesach. If any bread is left over, it should be given to a non-Jew, but care must be taken that he does not carry it out into a public place. The house should either be swept by a non-Jew or with an object with which it may be swept on the Sabbath. Okay, so it can't be a broom. It's got to be something different than what we would normally use. Perek 4. On the Sabbath, the Shacharit service should be held at an early hour so that the breakfast may be completed while it is still permissible to eat leaven. It is proper to divide the meal into two parts. Eat a little, say grace, pause for a short time, walk or discuss some religious topic, then wash the hands again, eat and repeat the grace, thus fulfilling the precept of eating 3 meals on the Sabbath. Because the next meal would be part of Pesach, and we don't eat the meal until we actually go into the Seder. Okay, so we split that lunch into kind of two there. Okay. Perek 5. It is customary to read for the Haftorah, Malachi, uh, Perek 3, Pasuk 4. Verava, and it shall be pleasant, etc. Because it is written in the verse 10, bring all the tithes into the storehouse, and so on. This is fitting subject for the day because, according to some authorities, the time for the disposal of the tithes was on the day before Pesach, of the 4th year of the Shemitah, which we find in Leviticus 25, verse 1 through 4. And on the day before the Pesach of the 7th year of the Shemitah, or the sabbatical year, all the grain set aside as tithes during those 3 years, and which were still kept in the house, were to be given to the Leviim at the above-mentioned time. Pasuk 6. On the Friday, every man must be careful to inquire at his house whether challah, the first of the dough, has been separated from the bread baked for the Sabbath. 4. In the case where the separation of challah was forgotten on the Friday, there is great confusion as to the procedure, because challah can neither be separated on the Sabbath, nor can the separation be postponed on account of the Pesach. The Magen Avraham holds that all the bread should be given as an absolute gift to a non-Jew, while one may still derive benefit from leaven. That we can still derive benefit from the leaven, we should give it away, because the non-Jew can always benefit from the leaven. Other authorities disagree with him and provide other means, but they are but provisions for emergency. It is best thereto to be careful about that. Perek 116, the ceremonial purification of vessels. Pasuk 1. Earthenware vessels which have been used for leaven cannot be made fit for Pesach either by rinsing with hot water or by glowing. We talked about that last week. The oven, the glowing oven. Ovens and ranges made of stone and brick can be made fit by glowing. It is customary not to make ritually fit for Pesach any stove used in the winter, and when we wish to place on it some dish during Pesach, we must first put on it a metal plate and place a dish on the plate. This rule applies also to the oven made of tiles. Pasuk 2. Vessels made of wood, metal, stone, or bone can be made fit by rinsing them with hot water, but the vessel which will be damaged by hot water, such as one glued together, even only if the handle is glued on, cannot be made valid for use by that process, because it is feared that one will not cleanse it thoroughly. Okay. Perek 3. Before the vessel is purified, it must be thoroughly cleansed of rust and the like, but ordinary stains do not matter. Well, that's good to know. If a vessel is indented, it should be carefully scraped. If it is made of metal, hot coals should be placed upon the dents to glow them, and the vessel should be purified thereafter. If, however, it is impossible either to cleanse the dents and cracks thoroughly or to glow them, the vessel cannot be made valid for use. Hence, it is necessary to scrutinize knives with handles whether they can be made valid by purification. If one can afford it, it is best to procure new knives for Pesach. Or like we do, we actually have a whole set of stuff for Pesach. That's the only time it's ever used. Perek 4. Utensils which are used over fire without water require glowing. Therefore, basins and frying pans in which leaven is baked require glowing. In the first instance, one should glow them to the extent of making them emit sparks. That's pretty hot. A wooden peel cannot be made valid for use. Perek 5. A vessel on which there is a patch, under which there may be accumulation of leaven, that the place must first be glowed until we are certain that if any leaven was there, it was consumed by the heat, and then the vessel should be purified. However, if there is no fear that it contained an accumulation of leaven, then if the patch was put on before the vessel was used for leaven, we may purify it as it is, for the purification will discharge the leaven by the hot water as it has absorbed it. If, however, the vessel was used for leaven before the patch was put on, purification does not suffice. One must not place hot coals on the patch to glow it before purifying the vessel with hot water. If the patch was soldered with lead or silver or the like, it may be purified as it is, as the leaven is consumed by the soldering or soldering. Okay. Pasuk 6. A mortar, which is ordinarily used for pounding pungent spices together with leaves, requires a slight glowing. That is, it should be filled with burning coals until it is hot enough for straw to be burnt on its surface. But if it is customary to pound in it only pepper and the like, a water purging is sufficient. Perek 7. A vessel which has been regularly used for keeping brandy does not discharge the odor and taste of the brandy through ordinary water purification. It should first be boiled in water and ashes until its odor is entirely dissipated, and then again immersed in hot water. Pasuk 8. And people think this stuff is easy. The purification of a cask should be done as follows. We place in it glowing stones, and pour upon them boiling water out of a vessel in which the water was boiled, called superheating the water. And then roll the cask so that the hot water may reach every part of it. The casks commonly used by us, which are made of many staves held together by hoops, if they contain such leaven as brandy or of flour, or if flour was kept in them, cannot be made fit for use by purification with hot water. Pasuk 9. A vessel that requires purification may not be made fit use by scraping. It must be purified. Pasuk 10. A vessel that cannot be thoroughly cleansed, such as a sieve, the receptacles of a mill, baskets used for keeping leaven, or a grater, as well as any vessel that has a narrow neck, which makes it impossible to be cleaned from within, or which has staves, cannot be made fit for use on Pesach by purification. Pasuk 11. A compartment in which food is kept the entire year, and which soup is sometimes spilled from the pots, requires a slight purification, that is, pouring boiling water upon it. But it must be poured out of the very vessel in which the water has been boiled. And one should not sprinkle the water, but pour it in a stream. It is also customary to make tables fit for use by placing glowing coals upon them and pouring boiling water upon the stone, which should be moved from place to place in such a manner that the boiling water should cover the entire surface. The tables must be scoured first, then purification in the above manner, after 24 hours. Nevertheless, there are some people who do not use on Pesach the tables and compartments purified this way unless a cloth or something else is spread on them. Parak 12. Handles of vessels also require purification. Nevertheless, if they protrude from the pots, the handles may be purified by spilling hot water on them. Simple enough, right? Parak 13. Drinking or measuring vessels also require purification. In these regions, the custom prevails not to make glass vessels fit for Pesach by purification. Metallic vessels glazed from within cannot be made fit by purification, but slight glowing will suffice, just as in the case of the mortar. In other words, heated enough so that straw will burn when it's touched to the surface. See how we're doing on time. We'll do 14 and then we'll take our break. Actually, I'll tell you what, we'll finish up the chapter and then we'll take our break and then we'll go on to the next chapter. So, Parak 14. Purification must be done by water only, and nothing should be mixed therewith, not even ashes or the like. If one has purified many vessels in one boiler, so that the water became turbid like sauce, no more vessels should be purified in them. No duh, right? Parak 15. If a person purifies a vessel by means of a pair of tongs, with which he holds the vessel, he must loosen his grip on the vessel and then take hold of it again. Otherwise, the purifying water would not penetrate the spot grasped by the tongs. It is best to put the vessel into a net or basket. One should not place many vessels at one time into the kettle in which they are purified, for they might touch each other, and being in contact with each other, they would not be purified in the place where they touch one another. Parak 16. One should not purify a vessel that has been used the same day, that is, within the 24 hours that leaven has been cooked therein. The kettle in which the purification is done should likewise not have been used that same day. We should also see that whenever we put a vessel in the kettle, the water should be boiling hot. If the kettle itself must be purified, it must be full when water is boiling, and glowing stones should be thrown into it so that the boiling water may overflow its rim, and also that would superheat the water. Purification must be done only until noon of the day before Pesach. Parak 17. It is the practice to rinse the vessel with cold water after purifying it. Parak 18. I was just thinking about steel and, working and quenching and stuff like that, and whether that's all actually going to make it brittle or not. Just a side thought from my old days working with steel. Anyway, Parak 18. If possible, the cleansing should be done in the presence of a scholar who is well versed in the law of purification. And that concludes Parak. Was I saying Parak or Pasuk when I was doing that? Anyway, that concludes Parak 116. And when we come back, we will pick up with Parak 117. So we're going to take a quick 6-minute break, get a chance to take care of a little business, have a little nosh, whatever. And I forgot to cue up my... I forgot to cue up the break. So, interesting. Okay, let's see how we can do this. Let's try it this way. We'll do this. And we'll add the break file. Okay, there it is. There it is. Okay, and we'll move this one up here. And we'll do this. Okay, so let's stop that there. And okay, so we will return in 6.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
And we are back. I see Colleen joined us. And, good. Okay. Yeah, that, I know it annoys, Shlomo, that break music, but, hey, it brings back a lot of good memories for me, you know, the old drive-in days and stuff like that. For those of us who are old enough to remember it. So, we left off. We completed Perek 116, and we are now on Perek 117. And this deals with various laws concerning Pesach. So, just in case we missed something, we've got various laws. Okay, so we are on Pasuk 1. If any leaven is found in food on the day before Pesach at any time before nightfall, it is subject to the same law that governs other forbidden food, which becomes a nullity when it forms only 1/60th part of the bulk. Now that whole 1/60th thing comes from the Babylonian exile times, when they determined that the smallest amount that could be measured was 1/60th. Of course, we know that not to be true these days, but that's where that actually originates from. So hence, if a grain seed is found in poultry or in cooked food, the seed is thrown away and the rest may be eaten during Pesach. However, during the week of Pesach, even the smallest particle of leaven renders the food unfit for use, and no benefit may either be derived from it. Thus, whenever a seed of the 5 species of grain or any other particular particle of leaven is found, one should consult a learned rabbi. Pasuk 2. I don't remember if I was saying Perek or Pasuk on. I think I was saying Pasuk on the other ones. Anyway, regardless, it's Pasuk. 2. If grain seeds are found in a well of water, the water may not be used during Pesach, only in the case of urgent necessity, that is, if no other water can be obtained. But if a piece of bread is found in the well, the water may not be used even if there's no other water, or if no other water is obtainable. And even filtering is of no avail. So keep your bread out of your well. I'm just saying. Okay, otherwise you're going to be stuck with having to drink wine through the whole Pesach period. And that would just be terrible, wouldn't it? Okay, Pasuk 3. It is the prevailing practice not to singe poultry with straw bearing ears of corn, or it is to be feared that they may contain a leavened grain. Hence, singeing is done either with grass or with straw from which the ears have been cut off. If, however, by inadvertence the singeing has been done with straw, and that ears attached to it, the poultry may be used. One should be careful to remove the crop from the poultry before singeing it. Pasuk 4. All kinds of legumes and all kinds of dried fruit may not be used during Pesach, unless it is known that they have been dried in a proper manner on staves or in a stove that was made ritually fit for Pesach. Even dried figs and raisins, whether large or small, may not be used. Also, the rinds of oranges are forbidden. Nevertheless, it is the practice to drink during Pesach a beverage prepared from raisins. Neither cloves nor saffron should be put in food, as there is a taint of leaven in them. Even in our region, where the saffron grows in the gardens, it is forbidden in order not to make any exception to the rule of law. The fence around the fence. Other spices in which there is no taint of leaven, salt included, should be carefully examined before being put on in food to ascertain whether there are any grain seeds in them. Perek 5. Honey should not be partaken of unless it has not been detached from the comb. So there you go, Shlomo. As long as it hasn't been detached from the comb, or that which has been detached by a Jew, to be used specifically for Pesach. Pasuk 6. In case of an emergency, for instance, like the requirement of a sick or an aged person, it is permissible to bake matzah with extract of eggs or with milk or wine, and this is known as matzah ashira, or rich matzah. Care, however, must be taken not to mix water with it, no matter how little. On the first 2 nights of Pesach, only regular matzah should be eaten. One does not fulfill one's duty with the matzah ashira. Where there is no pressing necessity, it is forbidden to bake matzah ashira even before Pesach to be used on Pesach. Pasuk 7. One who feeds grain or bran to fowl should be careful to put them in a dry place so that they should not become moist. It is forbidden to give bran to cattle, as it becomes moist from their saliva. And when giving them grain, care must be taken to give but a little at a time, so that no moist grain is left over. And if any grain is left over, it must instantly be cleared away. Pasuk 8. On the day before Pesach, from the time when it is forbidden to derive any benefit from leaven, as well as during the entire week of Pesach, it is forbidden to derive any benefit from leaven belonging even to a non-Jew. Hence, a Jew is forbidden to transport or to guard the leaven of a non-Jew, and he is most assuredly forbidden to purchase leaven from a non-Jew, even with money belonging to a non-Jew. Pasuk 9. During Pesach, it is forbidden to hire out a beast to a non-Jew for the purpose of carrying leaven, or to rent him a room for the purpose of storing leaven in it, because no profit may be made from that which no benefit may be derived. But it is permissible to hire out a beast to a non-Jew for the week of Pesach, excepting for the Sabbaths and festivals, when the non-Jew does not expressly state that he would transport leaven with it. Even if the non-Jew knows that the non-Jew will do so, it does not matter. For even if the non-Jew does nothing with the beast, he will still have to pay the full amount agreed upon. Hence, he benefits nothing by the carrying of leaven. It is also permitted to rent him a room to live in during Pesach, although the owner of the house knows that he will bring leaven there, because he does not receive the money for letting him keep the leaven, but rent for his dwelling there, which he has to pay anyhow. Pasuk 10. We are forbidden to commit a beast, commit a beast to a non-Jew even a long time before Pesach, if we know that he will feed it with leaven during the week of Pesach. Pasuk 11. We may say to our non-Jewish servant during the week of Pesach, "Here is money. Go buy yourself some food and eat," although we know that he will buy leaven. In a case of emergency, we are also allowed to say, "Go and eat at the non-Jew, and I will pay him for it." Or we may say to another non-Jew, "Give my servant something to eat, and I will pay you for it." But we are not allowed to pay him in advance. Pasuk 12. If it is necessary to feed a child with leavened food, the child should be carried to a non-Jew who shall feed him the leaven, and the Jew shall pay him afterwards. The Jew himself must not feed the child with the leaven. But if the child is in critical condition, everything is permissible to be done for it, because the preservation of life takes precedent even over the Sabbath, even over the festivals. Pasuk 13. Some authorities forbid, while others permit to drink on Pesach the milk of a cow belonging to a non-Jew, chalab, which is fed with leavened food. The scrupulous should follow the stricter opinion, especially in a community where the custom prevails to forbid it. Again, we follow the custom of the community, the minhag. Okay, so we are on Perek 118. The Seder program for Pesach night. Pasuk 1. It is meritorious to acquire choice wine to perform the precept of drinking the 4 cups. And man, I like my 4 cups. If we can procure red wine which is of the same quality as the white wine, and it is also as valid for the use on Pesach as the white, the former is to be preferred. For it is written in Proverbs 23:31, "Look not thou upon wine when it is red, for this it may be inferred that wine is most desirable when it is red." Another reason for the preference of red wine is that it is reminiscent of the blood which Pharaoh shed in slaughtering the children of Israel. In barbarous and benighted lands, where slanderous accusations that the Jews use human blood on the night of Pesach, which still goes around to this day. And in the Arab world, it's, they go through the whole protocols of the elders of Zion and all the blood libels and all that every year during and around Pesach. Accusations are current. People refrain from using red wine. Pasuk 2. For the first dipping, termed karpas, many people use parsley, but it is better to use celery, which tastes good when raw. But radishes are best of all, depending on your opinion. I mean, I'm not a big fan of radishes, but I really like celery. So, and Parsley is, Pasuk 3. For the bitter herbs, it is customary to use horseradish. Oh man, ever. We always grind our horseradish fresh. So it's good and strong. Right, Shlomo? Good, strong horseradish. Horseradish, which being very pungent, may be grated, but we must take care that its bitterness should not evaporate entirely. Man, ain't no way. Ain't no way, man. It is enough to singe the hair in your nostrils, I'm telling you. Okay, therefore, it should not be grated until we return from the synagogue. And then for that, we go to chapter 98, verse 3, where it is stated that it must be done in a different manner than usual. It's just somehow different, so that you're doing something, you're not using it in the same mundane way that you would do it otherwise. So if you're used to grading it down, grade it up. Something. Just any way that makes it different. It is forbidden to be graded on the Sabbath. Therefore, it should be done before night and kept covered until nightfall. It is, however, best to use lettuce, which is better to eat, and it is called bitter herbs, because when it remains in the ground for a long time, the stem becomes bitter. We can also discharge our duty by using a herb called wormwood, which I think I believe in Russian, wormwood is called Chernobyl. All the valid spices may combine to make up the size of an olive. Either the leaves or the stems may be used, but not the roots. That is, not the little roots which branch in all directions. The large root, however, over which the leaves grow, although it is hidden in the ground, is classed as a stem. Nevertheless, it is best to use the leaves and the stem which protrude above the ground, because some authorities hold that whatever grows in the ground is called root. The leaves are not valid unless they are fresh, but the stems are valid whether they are fresh or dried up, not, however, when they are cooked or pickled. Pasuk 4. The charoset, the paste-like mixture, must be made thick to symbolize the clay. But before dipping the bitter herbs into it, we add a little wine or vinegar, both to soften it and to symbolize blood, for the further reason that it may be fit to dip something in it. It is proper to prepare the charoset from fruits to which the people of Israel are likened. For instance, figs, because it is written in the Shir HaShirim 2:13, the fig plant putteth forth her green figs. Nuts, because it is written also in the Song of Songs 6:2, into the garden of nuts I went down. Dates, because it is written in 7:9, I will climb into the palm tree. Pomegranates, because it is written in 6:7, like the pomegranate split open. Apples, in remembrance of what was written. Under the apple tree I awakened thee, where the women were accustomed to give birth to their children without pain, and almonds, in Hebrew, shekedim, because the Holy One, blessed is He, was anxious, in Hebrew, shaked, to bring about the redemption. We should put in it spices resembling straws, that is, cinnamon and ginger, which cannot be thoroughly ground, and they retain shreds resembling straw, in remembrance of the straw the Jews used to knead into the clay. On the Sabbath, the wine and the vinegar should not be poured into the charoset. It must be done in a different... should not be poured into the charoset. It must be done in a different manner by putting the charoset into the wine or into the vinegar. The salt water should be prepared on the day before Pesach, even though it does not occur on the Sabbath. And if it is prepared on the festival, it must be done in a manner different from the usual by pouring the water first and putting the salt into it later. Pasuk 5. After the temple was destroyed, the sages have ordained that during the recital of the Haggadah, there be on the table two special dishes, one in memory of the Paschal lamb and the other in memory of the Hagigah offering. It is customary to have a piece of shoulder meat to symbolize that the Holy One, blessed be He redeemed Israel with an outstretched arm, and it should be roasted on coal, symbolic of the Paschal lamb, which was roasted on fire. The second dish should be an egg, because an egg, in the Aramaic language, be'ah, that is to say, the All-Merciful desired to redeem us with an outstretched arm. The egg may be either roasted or boiled, but it must be prepared on the day before Pesach, while it is still daylight. If we have forgotten to do it then, or if the day has occurred on the Sabbath, we may roast or boil it at night, in which case we must eat it on the first day of the festival. And for the second night, we prepare the egg on the night, and we eat it on the second day of the festival, because we are not allowed to cook on one festival for another, nor on a festival for a weekday. Now, inasmuch as no roasted meat may be eaten on these 2 nights, therefore we must eat the shoulder meat during the daytime only. Even if it has been roasted on the day before the festival, the meat should not be thrown out, but it should be placed in the victuals that are cooked on the second day and eaten. Pasuk 6. We should arrange the seats at the table while it is still daylight, using the best spreads we can afford, and place them in such a manner that we may be able to recline on the left side. Even a left-handed person should recline on the left side. The Seder platter should be set while it is yet day, in order that on the arrival from the synagogue we may proceed with the ceremony of the Seder without delay. Okay. Pasuk 7. Although during the rest of the year it is best not to display too many beautiful dishes, so that we may keep in mind the destruction of the temple, yet on the night of Pesach it is good to display as many of our tableware as possible. Every vessel not used for the meal should be on the table, both to decorate the table and to symbolize freedom. Pasuk 8. The Seder plate is arranged thus. The whole matzot are placed on the platter and covered with a fine cloth. A shank bone is placed on the right side and an egg on the left. The bitter herbs over which the benediction will be pronounced placed in the center. The charoset is placed below the shank bone, the karpas below the egg, and the bitter herbs which are to be eaten with matzah in the center. Pasuk 9, which is very different than the Seder plates that we actually use. Pasuk 9. The wine cups must be whole without a flaw, thoroughly washed, and they must hold no less than 1/2 eggshells. Or as I've also been told, 3 olives worth. Pasuk 10. It is our custom to don the ritual garment called kittel, the white robe, which must also be prepared while it is yet day. A person in mourning should not don the kittel, but he must recline like everyone else. If, however, he has observed no mourning at all before the festival, as for instance, when the dead were interred on the festival, when, according to custom, he should not recline, but he must recite the Hallel, because the recital of Hallel is obligatory. Pasuk 11. A son at his father's table is obliged to recline, but a disciple at his master's table is not required to recline. Okay, so now we're going to get into the whole Seder and the Pesach and everything else. So I think we are going to pause here so we can do this uninterrupted, so we won't stop it in the middle. And we're just about out of time anyway, so we will pause there. And again, like I said, next week being Hanukkah, we will not have classes so that we can all take the days and enjoy them and be with family and enjoy the festival. So I hope you all have a wonderful Pesach. Hope you'll be returning to be with us tomorrow night when my sidekick Zeta back here and myself, we will do the Torah study. And until then, we'll just say, Laila Tov.